Tavis was once a normal young man who fell in love with a beautiful lady. Tavis had led a normal life in Mississippi. He had married the woman and had a family of 2 kids. He had a decent job that eventually helped him achieve a great amount of money. Eventually, she was a victim to cancer. On the dark and perilous night that she died, Tavis made a vow. He would make sure her grave was safe, in his reach, and would be cherished forever. He made another vow never to tarnish her name. His wife's will stated that Tavis was not allowed to know where her grave was located. Before she died, she decided to have a private burial in another U.S. state. Tavis had already left the burial to her sons, which were the only 2 people with knowledge of where his wife was buried. The next day, he begged his sons to tell him where his wife's grave was. They didn't answer, though Tavis's answer was a harsh punishment called death. He tied them up, covered their mouths, threw them in a grave he dug, and threw knives at them. He then buried the lifeless bodies. For days after that event, he made marks on the walls and paper, all saying Jocelyn. By the time he realized he was insane, he knew that he needed to run before the police found out about him. He escaped into another state. He tried to make a new life, but he couldn't take his mind off of Jocelyn. He went around asking people if they knew where a woman named Jocelyn Cross was buried, but no one knew anything. Every day he went to a random graveyard and dug up everyone's grave of someone with the first name Jocelyn or the last name Cross. He opened the graves, and if the corpse inside was a female brunette Caucasian, which has not rotted away completely, he would pick up the corpse and quietly put it in his trunk of his car and bury them in a hidden spot near his newest residency. He moved to different motels to avoid being caught. He gave up his search and moved on to another state. Tavis's insanity grew louder. One night he followed someone who said they did not know where his wife was buried. He went into their backyards. He whispered the name Jocelyn Cross as he dug the grave. When Tavis was finished, he crawled through the window of his victim, tied them up, covered their mouths, and threw the man into the grave. He continuously asked if they knew where Jocelyn's burial site was. The man shook his head slowly with fear. Tavis said his lack of knowledge was only punishable with death. Instead of throwing knives, he carried a gun with a silencer. The low whisper of the shots cried through the night as he tortured his victims and shot them in places that would not kill them. His victim went unconscious due to blood loss. Tavis buried his corpse and continued his journey to find Jocelyn. He will never stop until Jocelyn is one with him.